It was not the record-breaking June heatwave of 2023, where temperatures soared to 105 degrees Fahrenheit across the Midwest, that scorched these prize-winning heirloom tomatoes, causing their leaves to curl and fruit to rot. No, the real culprit was exactly 2 inches of black-dyed mulch laid down with good intentions in early spring. This dense, dark barrier created a localized oven effect, silently cooking the delicate root systems beneath and turning your garden dreams into a parched nightmare before the summer even truly began. You probably thought you were diligently protecting your garden from the relentless summer drought, perhaps recalling advice from well-meaning neighbors or online forums about conserving precious water. But by applying that thick, dark layer of mulch, you accidentally transformed your carefully cultivated soil into an underground outdoor oven. Temperatures just an inch below the surface can easily exceed 140 degrees Fahrenheit, literally baking the life out of tender plant roots and destroying the soil's beneficial microbial ecosystem. And the truly crazy, almost unbelievable part about this silent killer, this insidious destruction happening right under your nose, every single major garden center, from your local family-owned nursery to national chains like Lowe's or Home Depot, actively tells you to do this right now. They prominently display vast mountains of black or dark brown shredded wood, often with bright yellow signs proclaiming its moisture-retaining benefits, pushing a product that, in many climates, guarantees plant misery. Welcome to the absolute biggest landscaping lie of the summer season, a pervasive myth propagated by misinformation and aggressive marketing. And it's almost certainly happening in your front yard, your backyard, and even your neighbor's manicured flower beds. This deceptive practice, often seen as a sign of a well-maintained property, is actually a slow-motion disaster for your plants, costing you countless hours, significant money, and untold frustration as your greenery inexplicably withers. Every year, as soon as the last frost threat passes, usually around early June in temperate zones, people rush out to their local home improvement stores. They meticulously load up their carts with 50 or more bags of cheap, dark-colored wood chips, often artificially dyed. Then, with a misguided sense of horticultural duty, they proceed to completely bury their delicate flower beds, smothering vibrant petunias, tender impatiens, and struggling rose bushes under a suffocating blanket. They carefully pile it high, sometimes up to 4 or 5 inches deep, right around the base of those vulnerable green stems, genuinely believing in the marketing hype. They're convinced this thick, dark layer magically locks in moisture for the thirsty roots below, envisioning a cool, damp haven. The truth, however, is a cruel betrayal of that trust, as the very material meant to protect them becomes their most dangerous adversary. But the fundamental physics are undeniable. Dark colors absorb massive amounts of solar radiation, far more efficiently than lighter shades. Think of wearing a black shirt on a sunny day. When the intense midday sun, particularly between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m., hits that freshly spread, dense layer of dark mulch, it doesn't just get warm. It becomes a super efficient heat conductor, transferring that absorbed energy directly into the soil beneath. The immediate consequence is alarming. The temperature just 1 inch below the surface, where tender feeder roots reside, doesn't just rise gradually. It shoots past 120 degrees Fahrenheit in a matter of mere hours, often exceeding 145 degrees Fahrenheit on a 90 degrees Fahrenheit ambient day. This rapid, uncontrolled thermal spike is far beyond the tolerance of most garden plants, which thrive in soil temperatures typically between 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit for optimal root function. That extreme scorching heat, consistently baking the soil day after day, is hot enough to literally cook the roots of your most cherished and expensive perennials. Imagine trying to survive with your feet in boiling water. That's the equivalent stress. The delicate root hairs, responsible for absorbing water and nutrients, are severely damaged or completely destroyed, turning them into a mushy, non-functional mass, effectively starving the plant from the ground up. You diligently water them every single morning at dawn, sometimes even twice a day, convinced they're just thirsty from the summer sun, but they still stubbornly droop. You then add expensive liquid fertilizer, hoping to give them a boost, only to watch in frustration as the leaves, instead of greening up, just turn an alarming yellow, indicating severe nutrient lockout and distress, a clear sign something is fundamentally wrong below the surface. That happens precisely because the essential root systems, which are the very lifeline of your plants, are practically boiling alive in the dark, suffocating beneath that thick, dense, and ultimately toxic thermal blanket of mulch. The high temperatures destroy the beneficial soil microbes, inhibit oxygen exchange, and render the roots incapable of absorbing the water and nutrients you're so carefully providing, leading to a slow, agonizing decline. And believe me when I say, the situation gets infinitely, demonstrably worse, accelerating the demise of your valuable trees and shrubs if you are currently doing the dreaded landscaping mulch volcano. This common yet disastrous practice is not just unsightly, it creates a death trap for woody plants by smothering their vital root flares and inviting a host of deadly pathogens. You definitely know the look. It's practically ubiquitous in suburban developments and commercial landscapes across North America. That unnatural cone of coarse wood chunks, often dyed a deep reddish-brown, piled high, sometimes 18 inches or more, halfway up the trunk of a beautiful mature oak or a newly planted maple tree. It looks like a protective collar, but it's actually a slow-acting poison. But professional landscapers do it everywhere, you might argue, pointing to office parks or municipal plantings in suburban neighborhoods. So it must be the correct industry-approved technique, right? Absolutely wrong. This widespread practice is a textbook example of poor arboricultural technique, driven by aesthetic preference and quick installation rather than long-term tree health. And it's actively shortening the lifespan of countless trees. Tree bark is biologically meant to protect the trunk from environmental elements like sun scald and pests, and facilitate gas exchange with the air, not sit constantly trapped under 3 or more inches of wet, rotting compost. This perpetual dampness against the bark creates a perfect anaerobic environment, softening the protective outer layer and inviting decay, essentially replicating conditions found below ground where roots, not trunks, are meant to be. When you foolishly bury the delicate root flare, that critical transition zone where the trunk widens and roots begin to spread out, you effectively invite invasive pests and deadly fungus straight into the tree's vulnerable vascular system. Softened, moist bark becomes a welcome mat for boring insects like emerald ash borer, and allows destructive fungi like Phytophthora root rot to easily penetrate and colonize the tree's vital transport tissues. The tree slowly suffocates under this constant weight and moisture, its cambium layer rotting, its root system choked off from oxygen. It might take 5 agonizing years for the tree to finally show obvious signs of severe decline, like sparse canopy or premature fall color, before it unexpectedly collapses during a storm. But make no mistake, the moment that mulch volcano was built, the tree was already irrevocably dead from the inside out. So with this grim reality laid bare, how exactly do we fix this massive, widespread mistake before the brutal, unrelenting July heatwave actually hits your region, turning your garden into a literal death trap? The good news is, while the problem is severe, the solution is surprisingly simple and can yield dramatic, rapid results for your struggling plants, transforming them from wilted despair to vibrant health. First things first, grab a sturdy metal rake, preferably a bow rake with strong tines, not a flimsy plastic leaf rake. We desperately need to break up and pull away that dense, compacted topsoil and mulch layer, allowing the suffocated roots to breathe again. This immediate action will begin to lower soil temperatures and restore essential air circulation to the root zone. Immediately and with purpose, pull all of that heavy, dark, heat-absorbing material at least 4 inches, ideally 6 to 8 inches, away from every single plant stem and every tree trunk. Create a wide, clear zone of bare soil around the base. This critical step ensures that the vulnerable crown of perennials and the sensitive bark of trees are no longer in direct, suffocating contact with the moisture-retaining, heat-absorbing mulch. You need to give your plants a clear, unobstructed breathing donut, an open, unmulched ring of bare soil directly around their base, extending outward at least a foot for smaller plants and 2 to 3 feet for trees. Crucially, the structural root flare, that naturally widening base where the trunk transitions into the ground, must be completely visible to the eye, free from any soil or mulch accumulation, allowing for proper gas exchange and preventing rot. Next step, and this is non-negotiable, ditch the cheap black-dyed stuff entirely. Don't even think about reusing it anywhere in your garden. This low-quality material is usually just shredded industrial pellets, often treated with unknown chemicals or contaminated with heavy metals, then soaked in harsh artificial dyes to achieve that uniform dark color. It's not just ineffective, it's potentially introducing toxins into your precious soil. Switch immediately to a natural, lighter-colored organic matter for your mulching needs. Think about using fresh, fluffy pine needles, which slowly acidify the soil to the delight of plants like blueberries and rhododendrons, or beautifully shredded natural cedar. Other excellent choices include untreated straw, cocoa hulls, or even light-colored, undyed wood chips made from natural sources, all of which offer superior benefits without the thermal drawbacks. These lighter-colored materials, whether it's the golden hue of pine needles or the reddish-brown of cedar, actually reflect a significant portion of the harsh midday sun's infrared radiation instead of aggressively absorbing it like a giant thermal sponge. This reflective quality can keep the soil beneath them a crucial 10-20 degrees Fahrenheit cooler, preventing the root zone from overheating and maintaining a stable, hospitable environment for plant growth. Beyond just temperature regulation, these natural undyed materials also break down gradually and organically over time, actively feeding the soil microbiome with essential carbon and other nutrients. This process cultivates a thriving ecosystem of beneficial bacteria, fungi, and earthworms, improving soil structure and nutrient cycling, instead of ruthlessly baking it into a lifeless, compacted dust that repels water and stifles growth. And whatever natural, lighter-colored material you ultimately choose to use, remember this absolutely critical rule. Keep the top layer strictly under 2 inches thick across the entire garden bed. For most perennial beds, an ideal depth is closer to 1 to 1.5 inches. No more. Anything thicker than 2 inches, even with lighter materials, can still impede air and water penetration and potentially create unwanted moisture issues. Within exactly 14 days of diligently pulling back that suffocating, heat-trapping blanket and replacing it with a breathable, cooler alternative, the physical recovery of your struggling plants will be undeniable. You'll observe a remarkable transformation, a resurgence of vitality that will astonish you, proving the power of proper horticultural practices over misguided trends. Those terribly wilted hydrangeas, once drooping with despair and showing signs of leaf scorch, will push out vibrant, bright green, healthy new growth from their stems, often within just 2 weeks, leading to a resurgence of blooms. Your tomatoes will perk up, your hostas will unfurl. Stop inadvertently cooking your garden in a thermal oven. Embrace these simple changes and hit that subscribe button for more essential plant survival secrets and debunked gardening myths.